So, hello everyone, good afternoon. A large number of our children, apart from other issues, have heart conditions and are at a increased risk of congenital heart disorders. It is essential that all our children are screened for heart defects at a very young age. There are also other cases of previously undiagnosed heart disorders which may surface at a later stage. It is therefore very essential that parents are mindful of the fact that periodic heart checkup should be in their mind. Healthy heart is an indicator of pink health. Today, we are indeed privileged to get guidance from super expert pediatric cardiac surgeon Dr. Krishna S. Iyer. Dr. Iyer, who readily agreed to guide us despite his busy schedule on our request. On behalf of Down Syndrome Parent Society Delhi and Down Syndrome Federation of India, it is a great honor and pleasure for me to welcome you, sir. I now request our charming fellow parent and cardiologist, Dr. Amita Garg, to introduce our eminent guest speaker and also moderate this session. Over to you, Amita.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a complete honor for me to introduce Dr. K.S. Iyer, sir. I know that no words can be sufficient to do justice for his introduction. I'll try my best. Sir has an illustrious career of over 35 years, encompassing tall accomplishments in the field of pediatric cardiac surgery. After completing his graduation, post-graduation, and super specialization, all from AIIMS, he did his fellowship in neonatal cardiac surgery from the Royal Children's Hospital, Australia, after which he came back to AIIMS and started a pediatric cardiac surgery program there. Since then, he has been working tirelessly in the field of pediatric cardiac surgery. He has completed over 14,000 surgeries, including correction of cardiac defects in children with trisomy 21 or Down syndrome. Many of us parents who are present here today in the webinar, including myself, owe the intact cardiac status of our children to him. He is credited with many firsts in the country. To name a few, he laid foundation of the first pediatric cardiac setup of North India, which was Escorts Heart Institute. And it has been over 25 years now that the pediatric cardiac surgery program is running under his guidance. He was also the first one to do first successful two-stage arterial switch surgery way back in 1991, and also first successful double switch operation in 1993. Sir has more than 100 publications in reputed journals, both national and international, and has contributed to many chapters in surgical textbooks. He has also helped in setting up numerous pediatric cardiac surgery centers across the country and also in the neighboring countries. Sir is the recipient of many prestigious national and international awards. He is the president of many well-known cardiac societies. For his huge body of work, professional as well as social, he has been felicitated in both the spheres of life. Humility personified, that he is. Sir had requested me to keep the introduction very, very short, but sir, this was the most frugal thing that I could do with your introduction. I welcome you to this wonderful family of Humsafars. We call ourselves Humsafars because we have these beautiful children who have trisomy 21. They are bringing joy into our lives. Welcome, sir, and over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Dr. Amita. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say a very warm good evening to you all, and to thank Mrs. Rashmi Joshi for organizing this session and dedicated team. Warm greetings to all the parents who are joined in. And I had been requested to present this talk, essentially to give a brief idea of what congenital heart disease is and how it impacts children with Down syndrome. how we deal with it, and to give you a broad overall view, and to have some meaningful discussion with parents who may have questions, queries, doubts, confusions, etc. So I will.
Our regards to ma'am. Ma'am Parvati is also here.
Yes,
So
she's
it's a
sitting.
privilege. Yeah, it's a privilege to have her with us today.
So
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, how are you?
Good, ma'am.
she didn't want to block one more participant by logging
I
in
wanted to
separately. So
listen.
No, no, not at all. It is a privilege, sir. Absolutely. So happy to see you.
Dr. Amita, hi.
So good to see you, ma'am.
So I will present a few slides on some of the broad issues. Then we will take up most of the questions which are raised, and a lot of the discussion will probably be more meaningful if it comes as answers to the question. So I will look forward to many questions from the parents. So we'll start off with this picture, and the title is Down syndrome and heart disease, as has already been introduced. I work in,
डॉक्टर अय्यर
yes,
फोर्टिस एस्कोर्ट हार्ट हॉस्पिटल दिल्ली में मेन सर्जन है पेडियाट्रिक
I think you have to mute some.
Yeah, yeah.
Rashmi ma'am, I would request you to please mute. I'm not the co-host right now.
Okay.
Amita ma'am, I'm sorry. Yeah,
No,
you'll have
that's
to.
okay. Sir, probably we'll have to mute everyone, and then you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay.
And
पीछे वाला कवर ला रिमोट
Dr. Sheila, can you please give me the host rights? I mistakenly, shifted those host rights to you. Dr. Sheila.
Parents, please mute your mics, please.
Shall I mute all right now?
Yes, Dr. Amita, thank you.
Okay. Sir, please, you may unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, as already mentioned, this is the hospital I work in. It's the Fortis Escorts Heart Institute in New Delhi, the 300-bedded hospital, which was started in 1988, and I joined there in 1995 to start the first exclusive pediatric cardiac program in Northern India, and I have been there for 25 years. Overall, I spent close to 35 years practicing pediatric cardiac surgery, and my interaction with children with Down syndrome has been as far back as the early 1980s. So we're all aware of what the symptomatology and the features of Down syndrome is. And as medical professionals, we generally prefer to label it as trisomy 21 rather than Down syndrome. And it's basically a genetic anomaly which results from an extra 21 chromosome. There are a few variants of this anomaly, and I will not go into the details of that, but we know broadly that the clinical features include varying degrees of intellectual disability and growth retardation. It affects the normal lifespan, and they are susceptible to illnesses like hypothyroidism, leukemia, early onset of dementia. And importantly, about 50% of children born with trisomy 21 have an associated heart defect. We don't know too much. We know about the chromosomal anomaly that causes it, but in fact, amongst the causative reasons for this, the most important recognition is the fact that increased maternal age is associated with a higher instance of Down syndrome. In fact, if you look at this chart, we'll say that as the maternal age increases, the risk of having a child with Down syndrome increases, especially in the third and the fourth decades. So you can see here, if the maternal age is less than 25, the chances of having Downs is about 1 in 1500 average. But once you cross that age, the chance of having a child with Down syndrome increases about 4 to 5 fold. But the essential understanding in dealing with this problem is that the adaptive limitations of any of such disorders, it coexists with inherent strengths. And with appropriate and sustained supports, the life functioning of individuals with Down syndrome will generally improve. There are basic organic or neurobiological origins of this condition, but importantly, environmental precursors largely define the levels of competence. So an environment has a very important role to play in the progress of Down syndrome. Now, this is the area that we're going to be dealing with. That 50% of children who are born with Down syndrome will have a congenital heart defect. So we will look at what congenital heart defects are and then how individuals deal with it. Now, in my practice, I come across a fair number of parents and children with Down syndrome who come to me to consult for their child with heart disease. And I have seen very many different types of parental responses. And from my experience, I know the sequence of events that parents undergo when they are given the information that their child has been diagnosed to have Down syndrome. Usually it happens very soon after birth. Occasionally it may happen antenatally. The first response is generally a shock, because the diagnosis of Down syndrome and the news of that generally comes as a shock to parents who have not anticipated it. The second, of course, is an immediate denial of the fact that it may have Down syndrome. The feeling is that, oh, there may be something wrong. The test is probably wrong. The doctors are probably overreading things. As it sinks in, there is a feeling of fear because of the social stigma, family acceptance, and then, of course, the way that it might impact the smooth running of the household or the lifestyle. And of course, fears about added expenses which may come in with the care of such a patient. There's a certain element of guilt in some parents that they are responsible for the child having Down syndrome. Occasionally it gets converted into anger at life, anger at God for having given them such a child. And then, of course, when there is a question of the child also having a heart disease, there is a huge amount of confusion as to what to do with it, whether to get treatment done, not get treatment done. And finally, over the course of time, there is a level of acceptance, and with proper guidance and with proper counseling, many parents then learn to lead a very happy life with a child with Down syndrome. But certainly the diagnosis of heart disease, in addition to Down syndrome, is a major, plays a major role in this entire scenario. So let's look at what exactly do we mean by congenital heart disease. Now, congenital heart disease is essentially an abnormal formation of the heart, which usually manifests very early in childhood. So what do we mean by defects in the heart? Now, we all know with basic biology the normal structure of a heart. And if you don't, I've just put this diagram here to show that the heart basically has 4 chambers, 2 upper chambers which receive blood, 2 lower chambers which pump blood. One on the left side pumps blood, pure blood to the body, and the right side pumps impure blood to the lungs. And the circulation is such that the impure blood from the body goes to the lungs to get purified, and the pure blood comes back to the heart and then gets pumped to the body. So that's the way normal circulation is maintained. And when you have defects, it's basically defects in the structure of the heart. And we divide them into simple defects and complex defects. Simple defects, like for example, an atrial septal defect. I'll just mention some technical terms because very many of you who have children with heart problems would already be aware of these. So an atrial septal defect is a defect which involves the partition of the upper 2 chambers. And the ventricular septal defect is a defect which involves the partition between the lower 2 chambers. Now these are basically commonly referred to as holes in the heart. And when this happens, there is an abnormal shunting of blood because the pressures in the left side are higher, blood shunts to the right side. The net effect of this is that this extra blood in the right side gets pumped to the lungs, which indirectly then affects the functioning of the lungs. Then there are the more complex defects, and this is just one example of a complex defect, which is called transposition of great arteries, in which essentially the two arteries, instead of getting connected to these chambers, get reversed, so that the pulmonary artery, that's the artery which supplies blood to the lungs, instead of coming from the right side of the heart, is connected to the left side, and the aorta, which is connected normally to the left side of the heart, is connected to the right side. So when this sort of situation happens, the entire circulation becomes topsy-turvy. Pure blood does not go to the body, and impure blood does not go to the lungs. And therefore, these are very critical heart conditions which cause death within the first few weeks of life if you don't get treated. So the simpler defects will allow the child to grow for some time. The complex defects will not allow that. So when we look at children with Down syndrome, as I mentioned, about 50% of them will have heart defects. Fortunately, the vast majority of them are of the simpler form. Some are complicated. And then the symptoms and the presentation of the heart defect will, again, as I explained, depend upon the type of the defect. And here I have listed some of the common heart conditions which occur in children with Down syndrome. And the commonest that you would have heard is what is called as an atrioventricular septal defect. I will explain a little later what exactly this means. The second common is a simple ventricular septal defect, which was the second picture I showed you on the previous slide. The third is what's known as a patent ductus arteriosus, which is basically a communication between the two great vessels, the aorta and the pulmonary artery. And last, the least common, is a condition known as tetralogy of Fallot, which usually results in a blue baby.
Excuse me, speak the Hindi, please.
You want me to speak in Hindi?
Yeah.
Okay, I might find that a little difficult, but most of the audience Hindi? Okay.
Sir, no, sir, we
Maybe-
have mixed audience, so
Yeah.
I guess.
Maybe in the
English-
question answer session, we
Yeah.
can have more of mixed, whatever you feel like. So maybe in question answers, we can definitely.
No, I can try. And,
Yeah, we will keep in regional language.
so the common is atrioventricular septal, इसको AV canal भी कहते हैं. अब इस कंडीशन में जो है हार्ट का आप देख रहे हैं कि बीच का हिस्सा नहीं बना हुआ है. अब इससे क्या होता है कि ऊपर के खानों के बीच में जो पर्दा होता है उसमें भी छेद है, नीचे के खानों के बीच में जो पर्दा है उसमें भी छेद है, और नॉर्मली इन दोनों चेम्बर्स के बीच में जो वाल्व होता है, जो मैंने आपको पिछले स्लाइड में दिखाया था, ये जो दो अलग अलग वाल्व होते हैं, एक राइट साइड में, ये लेफ्ट साइड में, ये दो वाल्व अलग अलग नहीं होते हैं, ये दोनों मिलके जो है एक वाल्व बन जाता है. तो इस चित्र में जो आप देख रहे हैं, ये हार्ट का बीच का हिस्सा नहीं बना है. यही डाउन सिंड्रोम के साथ सबसे कॉमन कंडीशन, सबसे कॉमन हार्ट डिफेक्ट जो होती है, ये कंडीशन होती है. इसको एट्रियोवेंट्रिकुलर सेप्टल डिफेक्ट कहते हैं. पुराने जमाने में इसको एवी कैनाल डिफेक्ट कहते थे. अब इसमें भी जो है 2-3 किस्म की हैं. डिपेंड करता है कि ये जो हिस्सा कितना पूरी तरह से नहीं बना है. अगर दोनों पर्दों में जो है छेद है तो इसको कंप्लीट एवी कैनाल कहते हैं, और अगर नीचे वाला हिस्सा सही बना है.
Sir, I can't see the presentation.
Is it not
I
coming?
think no, it's there.
Yeah, it's visible.
सॉरी
It's
फॉर द
there.
इंटरप्शन बट सर यहाँ बहुत सारे लोगों को हिंदी भी नहीं आती है. इंग्लिश तो कॉमन लैंग्वेज है ना.
Yeah, English will be convenient for all of us.
I think what we can do,
please,
sir, is we can just
please,
continue in English, and when
English.
question answers,
हाँ.
so we can individually take up if the question asking person is comfortable in Hindi, we can answer in. We can do it that way.
Okay.
Yeah,
No problem.
that will be good.
Thank you.
That
Yeah,
will be
thank you,
good.
sir.
Thank you, Amita.
So depending upon the area which is affected, it is either classified as a complete atrioventricular septal defect or a partial atrioventricular septal defect. When the defect is complete, then it's a more serious condition and these children present earlier in life, they are more symptomatic and they require earlier treatment. When the defect is partial, like this, the defect is mainly only in the upper chambers, then this may allow the child to grow for a few years and they may present later on in life. And the third more important condition which I told you was tetralogy of Fallot. In this, there is a combination of defects that there is a large hole in the partition between the two lower chambers. And secondly, there is a narrowing of the passage from the right side of the heart to the lungs. So the combination of these two defects means that unlike a isolated ventricular septal defect where a lot of blood is flowing into the lungs, this narrowing protects the lungs. But unfortunately, as a result, the impure blood goes into the body. So these babies are actually blue and they are known as blue babies. So what then are the symptoms? Now, the next few slides that I'm talking about, these pertains to both children who have Down syndrome as well as those who don't have Down syndrome, because the heart features and the symptomatology is common to both. So when we talk about symptoms of congenital heart disease, it's the same whether the child has Down syndrome or does not have Down syndrome. And so these are some of the common symptoms by which one can suspect that a child has heart disease. And both for parents as well as the physicians, these are the common signs and symptoms that we look for. One is blueness of the lips and fingers. Now, very often parents will think or they're told that just because it is cold or it's winter, the child is having blue fingertips. Now, that's possible, but importantly, if the tongue is blue, then that is not related to cold. So if you notice blueness of the tongue, that's a very important sign that this child is likely to have a heart defect. If the child has fast breathing, it usually indicates that there is more blood flowing to the lungs are being heavy, so there is a heart defect that is probably causing it. Unless, of course, the child has a primary lung problem like a pneumonia, which can be easily picked up. If a child has been doing well but suddenly starts feeding poorly, it's one of the signs. And if the feeding is adequate and yet the child is not gaining weight, then that's again a reason to suspect heart disease. And of course, if you go to a pediatrician for a routine checkup and he picks up a heart murmur, then a heart defect is likely to be picked up. So, congenital heart disease can present at varying times. If it is critical, it can present, as I mentioned, like for example, transposition of great arteries. Now, this is a newborn baby who had transposition of great arteries, and you can see that the lips are blue. You can't see the tongue here, of course, but that's the presenting feature of this condition. The child may look well otherwise, but is extremely blue. So this condition is presenting at the newborn age. Sometimes it can present a few months later in early infancy, but you can see this characteristic of a child who's got a large hole in the heart, had a large ventricular septal defect. As I mentioned, the lungs are flooded with extra blood flowing into them, and these babies have difficulty in breathing. They breathe fast, and as a result, they don't gain weight. So you can see this child, he's almost skin and bones, and you can see he's in quite a lot of distress in terms of breathing. So this is one of the common features of those who present with a hole in the heart and what we call as acyanotic heart disease and have increased blood flow to the lungs. On the other hand, when there is less blood flowing into the lungs and blood is mixing in that, as I mentioned, the condition of tetralogy of Fallot, then these children are blue. You can see this child, the lips are very blue, and you can see his fingers and fingertips. If you leave this condition unattended for a long time, they get secondary changes. And this is what is known as a drumstick appearance of the fingers. The fingers get clubbed. And so one should not let heart disease continue to such a late stage. So if you don't treat heart disease, what will happen? So as I mentioned, the survival basically depends upon the type of defect. If they are complex defects and they don't get treated, then that will result in death in the first few months or years. But if they are simple defects, then the heart can cope with it. They can allow growth to occur, sometimes even to adulthood, but definitely lifespan is much reduced in these patients if the heart disease goes untreated. But if it's treated in time and properly, then the life can be normalized in the majority, which means that you can almost bring them to the same pattern of life that a child without heart disease would enjoy. So this is an important thing, that if heart disease is there, then it's most important that it has to be treated in time. So what is the treatment protocol once you suspect a heart disease? So the first important step is that you need a proper diagnosis. You need the exact diagnosis, what exactly is the defect. And this is done stepwise. Firstly, a physical examination, a chest X-ray and ECG would be done by the pediatrician or the cardiologist. And the second most important test is an echocardiogram. Most of you must be familiar with this. Angiography is a test which is done often in patients who either the echocardiogram doesn't give sufficient information, or if they present late, that means they've got secondary complications and one needs to delineate the severity of the secondary complication, which usually is damage to the lungs or what we call as pulmonary hypertension. Of course, immediately the diagnosis is made, medical treatment would start. Nutritional therapy is an important aspect of this medical treatment, and medical treatment is basically given during the time for planning this next most important step, that is surgery. Because the only treatment for congenital heart defects is a surgical intervention. Of course, a few conditions like a PDA may be treated with a non-surgical intervention, that is by a cardiac catheterization or a device closure, but essentially it is a form of intervention. There is no congenital heart disease which can be treated by medicines alone. So I'm just giving you for illustration, for knowledge, what is an echocardiogram? An echocardiogram is a sort of a sonography of the heart, and it gives you the essential structure of the heart, and it can pick up the defects of the heart. So you can see here quite nicely the two chambers of the heart. This is the left side chamber, that's the right side chamber, that's the two partitions, and these are the two valves. And when you add another aspect called color Doppler, this also shows the direction of the flow of the blood. Now, red and blue, it doesn't mean red blood and blue blood. It basically indicates the direction of the flow. So this is called a 2D echo or two-dimensional echo with color Doppler. And the next step, which is done less frequently now because echo gives us the information in the vast majority of the patients. But if that doesn't, then we do an investigation called a cardiac catheterization angiography. This requires admission in hospital because it requires a catheter to be put from one of the vessels in the thigh. The catheter goes into the heart and they inject a dye. And as they inject a dye, a sort of X-ray, which is called a cine X-ray, a running X-ray, a movie X-ray is taken so that that can delineate the flow of the blood and identify the structures in the heart. This catheter allows also to take pressures inside the heart, which is an important part of the diagnostic workup. So once a diagnosis is made, the next question comes is, surgery is the treatment, so when should we do surgery? In most of the conditions, surgery is indicated as early as possible. Because once you're sitting with the defect, there is no point in sitting and living with it, because every day that passes by, the heart is undergoing some sort of stress and there is a possibility of secondary complications. Some of these conditions, like I mentioned, transposition of great arteries, which presents in very early childhood, and because it does not allow the child to live for long, it requires an emergency surgical procedure, which may be a few days after birth. And even a newborn baby can undergo open heart surgery. We routinely perform surgeries on babies who are 1-2 days a week old, and they get referred to us from all over the country. But most of the surgeries, fortunately, can be done on a planned basis. When I say planned, it does not mean that you wait for years, but it is not that it has to be done tomorrow. So once a diagnosis is made and we discuss, and for example, it's a child with a atrioventricular septal defect, then one can plan the surgery in the next 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending upon the parents' convenience, because they all need to organize for this. They need to organize their home life, work life, as well as plan finances, etc. So Fortunately, most of these surgeries can be done on a planned basis, and we call this elective surgeries. But what is important is that every parent should be aware that excessive delay, and this very often occurs when parents are scared of getting surgery done. They feel that they're putting their child to a needless risk, and the child outwardly looks reasonably all right, is growing all right. They feel that they can delay the surgery, or they wait for problems to increase. But unfortunately, very often when surgery gets delayed, the secondary complications that occur, and as I mentioned, the most important secondary complication is damage to the lungs. When the lungs keep having excessive blood flow for a long period of time, then that damage often does not get reversed even if surgery or successful surgery is done. Because it's important to know that surgery only mechanically corrects the basic problem in the heart. Surgery cannot correct the secondary changes. The secondary changes which occur as a result of the heart defect have to recover on their own. For example, if there is damage to the lungs because of chronic increased blood flow, even after you correct the heart defect, the lung has to improve on its own. You may help it with some medications, but if the damage reaches a stage that it is irreversible, then even correcting the heart defect will not improve the child. So that is an important aspect for parents to know. You often have heard the term open heart surgery because all these defects which are inside the heart require us to open the heart and fix the defect. So hole inside the heart has to be closed, the valve has to be repaired. So when you open the heart, you have to stop the heart, and you cannot stop anybody's heart. Circulation will stop. You have to keep the individual alive, and that is done by means of this machine called the heart-lung machine. And you can see here, that's the baby on the operating table. And this heart-lung machine is very crucial for performing open heart surgeries. Now, all this looks very scary, but it's all very controlled. It's very scientifically maintained. But this is a very crucial element. So this is what maintains the child or keeps the child alive while the heart is being operated upon. After surgery, of course, the babies have to be nurtured through the post-operative course, and that is done in an intensive care unit setting. This is a cardiac intensive care unit, which is more complex than a routine intensive care unit. You can see that is a ventilator there that allows the child, or that does the work of breathing for the child, because in the first few days after surgery, the child would be painful to breathe on its own. We need to give the lung some amount of rest and the baby rest. So while all the heart functions and the body functions return to normal, the child has to be supported, and a lot of the body functions which are not able to be regulated on its own during this period have to be regulated. So like this is a radiant heater that controls the child's temperature, the breathing is controlled by the ventilator, and all these machines that you see are injecting small doses of drugs which are required for the heart to recover. And that recovery process is usually a very planned recovery process, and it's predictable. And as you can see here, what are the results of in today's age? Surgery has more than a 95% success in most of the heart defects, except the very, very complex ones. The vast majority of the defects, we can almost confidently say that more than 95% of the children will succeed and go home. And in fact, in the simpler defects, the success rate is as much as 99%. And many of the simpler defects, surgery gives a lifelong cure. For example, an atrial septal defect or a ventricular septal defect, or even an atrioventricular septal defect, in the vast majority, one can give a lifelong cure. And surgical results are, of course, improving day by day because the techniques of surgery, the anesthesia, the post-operative intensive care, everything is improving. And also newer surgical techniques are being developed. Newer non-interventional, non-surgical techniques are also. So there's a lot of positivity. And are the results different for children with Down syndrome? Fortunately, the mortality with Down syndrome is the same as in children with non-Downs or non-Downs. But importantly, the surgery has to be performed in time. If surgery is delayed beyond the recommended time, then there is likelihood of increased complications. But even otherwise, there is
अनम्यूट हो गया
म्यूट कर
babies with Down syndrome, there is an increased potential for increased postoperative stay because of possibility of postoperative infection, because they're more susceptible to infections. They are more susceptible to postoperative respiratory complications because inherently they have lung issues, lung problems. Their air passages are narrower than normal, so they tend to accumulate more secretions. They're also more prone to early onset of pulmonary hypertension, which I mentioned, that the lung vascular disease is something which is more likely in these patients, and especially if the surgery is delayed. And because of the nature of the heart defect, there is certain increased risk of requiring a permanent pacemaker because they're not able to maintain their heart rhythms. The last is important in the postoperative ICU. They have unpredictable sedation requirements because their response to sedation is not predictable, and so some can become extremely agitated and some can become extremely sedated. But nevertheless, we are always, in most cases, able to have a very happy outcome like this. And this is a baby with Down syndrome who underwent a repair of complete atrioventricular septal defect. And this is the baby 3 weeks after surgery. You can see that there is no appearance of any major issue or major problem after the heart surgery. There's yet another one of our child, operated many years ago. This child had a very complex problem. She had a combination of an atrioventricular canal defect and a tetralogy of Fallot. So 2 lesions in one. And so we had to do it in 2 stages. She had first surgery called a BT shunt at 1 year of age. And then she had a corrective surgery when she was 4 years old. A very active child. And most importantly, as I mentioned, that a very important component of this is the family support and the perseverance of the parents and the positivity of the parents. And you can see here, you can see the positivity actually radiating from these parents. So much so that they lived in Mumbai, and this child actually took part in a teleserial. Here she is acting in a teleserial in Mumbai in Doordarshan those days. So a lot of positives can come out provided the parents are positively minded and they are committed to doing everything for the child. So when there is a combination of Down syndrome and heart defects, it's certainly a challenging situation because one issue compounds the other issue. And in some situations, especially when there's an extremely complex heart defect, then it can sometimes become an ethical dilemma, both for the parents as well as for the treating physician. And the surgeon's role, therefore, becomes very important in this entire decision-making process for the family, especially when it comes to giving them an idea of what the long-term prognosis is going to be with the heart defect. So, I'm often faced with this question, should a child with Down syndrome be denied cardiac surgery? And my answer is very simple. It's a very definite no, that no child with Down syndrome should be denied surgery on the part of the physician or the surgeon. What is the surgeon's role? The surgeon's role is not a decision-making role. But the surgeon's role is to clearly explain what the nature of the problem is, what the treatment options are, what are the likely outcomes both in the immediate and the long term, and what is the long-term life expected to be from the heart point of view after the corrections. The families then have to take a final decision based on the circumstances and expectations. You can see that some child is doodling on the screens. So family supports groups have a very important role to play in all this, and that's where I think this session is going to be very conclude this by saying that when we look at a child with Down syndrome, we have to look at this in this way, that all of us, we consider ourselves normal, but we all have some deficiency or the other. And through life, we try to strengthen our skills and our positives while working on our deficiencies. And so we need to look at children with Down syndrome the same way. They have some deficiencies, but they also have certain skills. They need to enhance their skills while working on their deficiencies. When they have heart defects, one must understand that in the vast majority of them, these defects are eminently treatable. But most importantly, we should treat it early, appropriately, and that is the mantra for all congenital heart disorders, including in those with Down syndrome. So that was a brief overview of Down syndrome, the heart defects in Down syndrome, what the approaches is. And now I welcome questions. I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, sir. I think that was a very lucid way of making parents understand what is the basic anatomy, what is the structure of heart like, how does it look like when they enter the hospital, when an echocardiogram is done, and what do they have to understand if there is a catheterization required, how does the operation theater look like. I think all that takes away a lot of anxiety which is there in the parents, so they have an idea what is going to happen, especially for parents who are due for surgery, whose children are due for surgery. So thank you so much, sir. And actually, so many questions that we have already received before we started the webinar, you have already answered most of the queries. But for the sake of individual cases, if you allow me, I'll take the queries one by one.
Yeah.
And also for the language, we have a multilingual Humsafar family. So for the sake of for people who understand Hindi better, maybe we can, with each individual cases, maybe we'll have to repeat whatever you said, and that will be incorporated in the questions.
Sure, no problem.
So first query is by Amna. Amna, you're here, I think. Amna is from Pakistan. Amna, आप यहाँ पर हैं? इनका बेटा
क्वेश्चन के
है.
आंसर्स दो दादी को, मैंने लिखने को तो नहीं बोला ना तेरे को.
इनका बेटा, sir, what I'll do is I'll mute again everybody, and then we'll Rabi, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
first query, yeah, yes. So first query is by Amna. Amna पाकिस्तान से हैं. इनका बेटा 13 महीने का है और इनका बेटे का वजन 6.5 kg है. इनके एकोकार्डियोग्राफी रिपोर्ट में एक PDA निकला है 3.4 मिलीमीटर का.
गुड बेटा, 4 o'clock होने वाली है. 4 o'clock क्लास.
And there is evidence of LV volume overload with mild pH. तो आमना शायद जानना चाहती हैं कि आगे क्या PDA को ठीक करने का तरीका है.
PDA को पहला बात तो ये है कि PDA अपने आप बंद नहीं होगा और ये हार्ट पे ऑलरेडी जोर दे रहा है और उसी से जो है कुछ असर इनके वजन पे पड़ रहा है. तो PDA तो बंद करना जरूरी है. ये सर्जरी से हो सकता है या जैसे मैंने बताया कार्डियोलॉजिस्ट डिवाइस से बंद कर सकते हैं. वो डिपेंड करेगा कि आपके यहाँ पर कौन सी फैसिलिटी उपलब्ध है. दोनों तरीके पॉसिबल हैं. जो डिवाइस क्लोजर है उसके लिए उम्र तो सही है पर थोड़ा वजन कम है, तो हो सकता है पीडियाट्रिक कार्डियोलॉजिस्ट आपको रेकमेंड करें कि इसकी ऑपरेशन करा लें. पर दोनों पॉसिबल हैं और दोनों इक्वली सेफ हैं.
Right, so then we have Mrs. Srimati from Trichy. She has a 2-month-old boy with trisomy 21, and she has been given a diagnosis of AVSD with ASD, VSD, PTA, MR, and mild pulmonary stenosis, and has dilated RA and RV. So she wants to know that is there any possibility of spontaneous correction of this lesion?
No.
One.
The first thing I mentioned in the beginning of the talk that these congenital heart defects, when they form, especially the type which is seen in children with Down syndrome, they do not go away, they do not get repaired on their own, they do not get fixed. So unfortunately, the problems that your child has, it requires early surgery. Normally with atrioventricular septal defects, the recommended age for surgery is 3 to 4 months. But in your child, since the valve is also leaking and also has a PDA, so there are multiple problems, you should get surgery done as soon as possible.
She also wants to know, is there any minimum requirement of weight prior to surgery, her son was 2.1 kgs when he was born, and now is 4.1 kg. So is it all right? Is the weight acceptable now?
4.1 kg is an extremely good weight for surgery because, as I mentioned, that these children will not gain weight if the problem is not treated. And this is an early phase, but very soon, as you've heard from the lady in Pakistan, he's 13 months old and he's only 6.5 kilos, which is the weight of a 6-month-old. So they very rapidly stop gaining weights.
And sir, I would just like to add another question since we are talking about the requirements for surgery. Is there any minimum age also when a surgery can be undertaken, especially for AVSD and defects like this?
When we operate based on the need. So as I mentioned, there are certain heart defects which are so critical that the child will die within a week of birth unless we treat it. So then we don't have a lower limit for age. So yes, just yesterday I have transferred a baby who was born at 1 o'clock yesterday, and we received the baby at 4 o'clock in our hospital, and we are going to be operating on Monday. So age, there is no lower age limit. We have operated on babies who have not even completed 1 day of age. But so it depends upon the severity and the criticality of the heart condition. And for each different heart condition, there is a different recommended time frame, because we know that leaving it beyond that time, it will cause more harm. And so, as I mentioned, for the common heart defect, or the commonest heart defect, which is AV canal defect in children with Down syndrome, the recommended age is between 3 to 4 months of age.
Right, sir. And similarly, is there any minimum weight which has to be there for any surgery to, apart from, of course, the emergency surgeries,
Again,
but when the surgeries are planned?
When we talk of weight, we need to look at what is the reason that the child is not gaining weight. If the child is not gaining weight because of the heart problem being uncorrected, then it does not make sense to try and gain weight. So unless you fix the heart problem, it will not gain weight. So we operate on children who weigh 1800 grams, 1900 grams when they are born. So a weight is not a particular issue. The problem is if the weight is disproportionate to the age of the child. So if I have a newborn baby who weighs 2 kilograms, I'm very comfortable with it and it's unlikely to have any complications, because a newborn baby and 2 kilograms is acceptable. Likewise, if I have a 4 kilogram baby who is 3 months old, they're very comfortable with it because you know that the weight is matching. But if I have a 1-year-old who is weighing 4 kilograms, then that child is extremely malnourished. And so that child is likely to have complications because he does not have a weight which is corresponding to the age. So when we look at weight, we don't look at an absolute number. We look at the weight in response to the age of the baby. And that is the biggest problem. Very often they are told that surgery cannot happen unless the child is 6 kilograms or 8 kilograms. And they keep waiting for months and months, and the child doesn't gain weight and it will not gain weight. So it is not right to fix a number to the weight. We have to see why the child is not gaining weight. If the child is not gaining weight because the child is not being fed properly, we also have the situation in our country where the children are fed diluted milk. They are not started on weaning foods appropriate time because of misconception. And the child is not gaining weight, not because of the heart problem, but because of a nutrition. In those circumstances, then we give appropriate nutritional advice and then see whether the weight gain can be corrected. But if the weight gain is not occurring because of the heart problem, then irrespective of the weight, the heart problem has to be treated.
Yeah, I think that is a very important insight, sir, because there are so many families who are actually waiting that बच्चा थोड़ा सा बड़ा हो जाए, वजन बढ़ जाए तो ऑपरेशन के लायक हो जाए. But the understanding, ये समझना भी बहुत ज़रूरी है कि वजन क्यों नहीं बढ़ रहा है, और हार्ट की प्रॉब्लम की वजह से वजन नहीं बढ़ रहा है, तो हार्ट की प्रॉब्लम फिक्स होने के बाद ही वजन बढ़ेगा, और वजन बढ़ने का इंतजार नहीं किया जा सकता.
ये दूसरी प्रॉब्लम इसलिए भी बनती है क्योंकि कई लोग कई हॉस्पिटल्स में जहाँ पर बहुत छोटे बच्चों की सर्जरीज होती नहीं है और आमतौर से ये सर्जन्स बड़ों की करते हैं और कभी कभी छोटे बच्चों की कर लेते हैं, तो उनको जो है अगर बच्चा 10 किलो 8 किलो से कम हो तो वो हिचकते हैं सर्जरी करने में, उनकी एक्सपीरियंस उतनी नहीं है, तो अक्सर ये बता देते हैं कि हाँ बच्चा इतना बड़ा हो जाएगा तो हम ऑपरेट कर लेंगे। तो वो एक सही एडवाइस नहीं है। बेसिकली अगर ऐसी सिचुएशन हो तो पेरेंट्स को ऐसी जगह पे जानी चाहिए जहाँ पर बच्चों की सर्जरी रूटीन में होती हो, डेडिकेटेड पीडियाट्रिक सर्जन और पीडियाट्रिक टीम हो जिनका कंफर्ट लेवल अलग होता है, तो वो जो है सही टाइम पे ऑपरेट कर पाएंगे।
बिल्कुल, थैंक यू। एंड Mrs. Srimati from Trichy also wants to know what can she do to support the child till the lesion is corrected, till the cardiac defect is corrected.
As I mentioned, that the pediatric cardiologist will usually advise what is called as anti-failure medication, which is usually generally Lasix. Lasix is a medicine which encourages the formation of urine so that these children usually accumulate more water in the body. So it helps them to breathe a little better, Lasix. And usually they would have given nutritional advice. And thirdly, of course, one has to protect the child from needless exposure, avoidance of crowds, taking them out so they don't pick up infection or a pneumonia in the meantime. So there are certain of these medications which help not to correct the defect, but only to help the symptoms which result from the heart defect.
And they're also finding difficulty in finding tertiary care in the city. So she wants to know with AVSD and mild pulmonary stenosis, how long can she wait for the pandemic to get over? Because of the pandemic situation, some parents are facing issues in getting the surgeries done.
Yeah, it's very difficult, but I think most of this, they get in touch with the hospitals which are conducting surgeries. I'm sure they'll be able to guide them through. In our hospital, we are conducting routine surgeries. We are guiding the parents through as to how they should reach the hospital and what COVID testing to be done. And we are facilitating the stay of the parents within the hospital itself and guiding them through. So that is happening in most of the cardiac units that I'm aware of, even in the south, even in Tamil Nadu. And if they get in touch with any of the centers in Chennai or whichever is nearest to them, I'm sure they'll be able to find surgery. Routine surgeries, elective surgeries are going on, have resumed in most of the hospitals across the country.
तो हम कोविड की सिचुएशन की वजह से ज़रूरी नहीं है कि हर बच्चे के हार्ट के ऑपरेशन के लिए इंतज़ार किया जाए। हम अगर प्रिकॉशंस लेते हैं और डॉक्टर्स हमें हेल्प करते हैं समझने के लिए कि कोविड से बचने के लिए क्या-क्या तरीके हम अपना सकते हैं और हॉस्पिटल में पहुँचें, तो हम जिस समय पर सर्जरी की ज़रूरत है उस समय पर भी सर्जरी की जा सकती है पैंडेमिक सिचुएशन में भी।
तो हमने कई इमरजेंसी सर्जरीज की हैं न्यूबॉर्न बच्चे में। एक बच्चा जमशेदपुर में पैदा हुआ था और वहाँ से उसका फादर 1300 किलोमीटर कंटिन्यूसली ड्राइव करके बच्चे को लाया, 17 घंटे ड्राइव करके वो लाया और हमने उसकी इमरजेंसी सर्जरी की थी। 7 दिन का बच्चा था। तो उसको जब सर्जरी की अगर ज़रूरत है तो उसको टालना नहीं है और कई तरीके हैं कोविड के सिचुएशन में भी उसको ओवरकम करने के।
Thank you, sir. Then we have again from Trichy we have Traya who has a 1-month-old child and the baby has ASD and BSD measuring around 3.5 and 3 millimeters, and she wants to know whether there is any cutoff size of BSD beyond which the surgery becomes mandatory. I would like to put it this way: what is the situation when the surgery becomes mandatory, and when can we still wait and hope for the spontaneous closure?
So in these situations, when the holes or the ASD and BSD are not very large, what the pediatric cardiologist would generally advise is a routine frequent follow-up. So normally in this situation, we'd probably repeat an echo after 3 months and see in which direction it is going, whether the holes are remaining the same size, they're tending to close. And we also need to know that what is the growth in response or in relation to the growth of the child. So if the hole size remains 3 millimeter and the child has become twice his weight, then obviously relatively the hole is becoming smaller. The second aspect that we need to know is what is the effect that the holes are having. It's not exactly the size of the hole which matters, but how much increase in blood flow is occurring in the lungs. And that is more important because the entire symptoms and the damage to the lungs will occur because of the quantity of blood flow. And that is not always directly related to the size. Some children with the same size may have more blood flow going to the lungs and some may have less. So it's a combination of just the size as well as the secondary effects that occur. So if the hole is not showing any signs of closure on follow-up, then as and when the effect on the lungs starts showing up or the pulmonary pressure starts going up, then one would recommend the closure of the hole. So we don't go exactly by the size. Of course, if it's a large hole, then there is no doubt about it. And if it's an extremely small hole, again, there is no doubt about it. But these holes which are in the intermediate range, which we call as moderate sized, those usually require a follow-up and a watch as to which direction it is going, whether it is going smaller or whether it's tending to remain the same size, in which case it would require treatment.
She also wants to know, just in case, hoping that the lesions correct, the VSD closes spontaneously, will she still be required to get a follow-up with echo annually?
Once the hole has closed 100%, then it doesn't require further follow-up. So follow-up is only required till the time that the echo shows with surety that the hole is completely closed. The second aspect is that some of these holes close because of the nearby valve blocking the hole. For example, the aortic valve or the tricuspid valve, more commonly the aortic valve. If the hole has got closed because the aortic valve has got stuck to the hole, then these patients may require a longer follow-up to make sure that the valve is not leaking. Otherwise, if it's a routine, what we call as a perimembranous defect, which is a garden variety of ventricular septal defect, once that closes, it's likely to remain closed and not cause any problems.
We have Mr. Vivek Jain, who has a 23-year-old gentleman with trisomy 21, and he got operated for VSD and PDA by you only in 1997. He's been doing well so far cardiac-wise, but of late he has developed epilepsy and he is on sodium valproate for the same. So Mr. Jain wants to know whether valproate, because of the valproate or because of the epilepsy condition, does he need to be more cautious for the cardiac health? And in the pandemic situation, does he need to take some extra precautions for the son?
No, fortunately, well, it's nice to get a follow-up and good to connect with you. If the child has had a VSD and a PDA closed at that time, and I assume that the subsequent echo has shown that the lung pressures are normal, then your son should behave absolutely normally like any other child. So there should be no restriction on taking any of these medications for epilepsy. And also no specific precautions apart from what everybody should take for COVID. So he's not at any greater risk than a normal population.
So we have parents and grandparents of Madhav Goel. Madhav is 3 months old, weighs 3 kgs, and his echo report says there's a large subaortic VSD with bidirectional shunt, large secondum ASD with left to right shunt, small PDA with bidirectional shunt, dilated RA and RV with severe PAH, and there is also some flow acceleration in the right upper pulmonary vein. So they want to know about the surgical prospects of the baby and what are the risks involved pre-operatively, post-operatively, and how does
tell me the weight of the child?
So 3 kgs.
So, okay, the child is 3 months old, has all three defects. So he's got a ASD, got a VSD, and a PDA. So there are all three defects which
There's some flow acceleration in the pulmonary vein also.
That usually happens when there is excessive flow coming through those veins. So there may or may not be a narrowing of the vein, but that can also be fixed. But it's very clear that this child is not going to gain any more weight if left alone. He requires very early surgery before he gets into trouble. If they get surgery done at this point of time, assuming that there is no other issues, there should be more than 95% chance that the child should recover well from surgery and then should have a fairly reasonably normal life after that.
So Preeti and Sachin, you are here. आप लोग यहाँ पर हैं, आप सुन रहे हैं कि ऑपरेशन होना चाहिए और जल्दी होना चाहिए और ये भी हाँ जी, और ये भी जानना चाहते हैं कि ऑपरेशन के दौरान क्या डायलिसिस की जरूरत पड़ सकती है और क्या बाकी के ऑर्गन्स भी अफेक्ट हो सकते हैं सर्जरी की वजह से या सर्जरी के दौरान?
सर्जरी जैसे मैंने दिखाया आपको, हार्ट लंग मशीन दिखाया था, जो कि हम हार्ट के भीतर ऑपरेट करते हैं तो खून का दौरा बनाए रखने के लिए हार्ट लंग मशीन का इस्तेमाल करना पड़ता है। उससे जरूर बाकी शरीर के ऑर्गन्स पे थोड़ा बहुत सदमा लगता है, कभी वो ज़्यादा होता है, कभी कम होता है। यूजुअली जो है 99% केसेस में वो टेम्पररी सदमा हो जाए वो रिकवर कर जाता है। और अगर कभी गुर्दे पे सदमा लगा तो हाँ, उनको डायलिसिस की जरूरत पड़ सकती है। इसको बच्चों में हम लोग पेरिटोनियल डायलिसिस कहते हैं। कोई बड़ी बात नहीं होती है, पर जैसे जैसे किसी भी ऑर्गन को सपोर्ट की जरूरत पड़ती है तो वो सपोर्ट देना पड़ता है। ये जो मैंने आपको आईसीयू का पिक्चर दिखाया था, उसके ऑपरेशन के बाद का एरिया, तो वो जो ऑर्गन्स को सपोर्ट देना होता है वो सभी इसीलिए जो है उनको ये आईसीयू की जरूरत पड़ती है।
सर इस सर्जरी में रिस्क फैक्टर कितना होगा?
वो देखिए, एक एक बच्चे को जो है इंडिविजुअली हम लोग एसेस करते हैं। ओवरऑल अगर देखें, जैसे मैंने बताया, ऐसे कंडीशंस में जो ट्रीटमेंट का जो सक्सेस रेट होता है वो 95% से ऊपर होता है।
सर अगर ये सक्सेसफुल है तो आगे इसके बाद भी जो है बेबी नॉर्मली बिहेव कर सकते हैं जैसे और बच्चे करते हैं, या फिर मेंटल प्रॉब्लम इसकी इंक्रीज ही रहेंगी?
आपके बच्चे को डाउन सिंड्रोम है कि नहीं
है सर।
तो ये दो अलग अलग विषय हैं, एक तो हार्ट की प्रॉब्लम है और दूसरी डाउन सिंड्रोम की प्रॉब्लम है। आपको ये जानना जरूरी है कि हार्ट की प्रॉब्लम ट्रीट करने से जो है डाउन सिंड्रोम की प्रॉब्लम नहीं जाएगी, डाउन सिंड्रोम की प्रॉब्लम रहेगी और उसके साथ जो उनकी इंटेलेक्चुअल कैपेसिटी है, फिजिकल कैपेसिटी है, डाउन सिंड्रोम के कारण वो तो बनी रहेगी। खाली ये होगा कि हार्ट के कंडीशन नॉर्मल या इम्प्रूव होने के कारण जो है उनको ये बाकी सब प्रॉब्लम झेलने की जो है शक्ति वो बढ़ जाएगी।
ऑपरेशन के बाद वजन बढ़ने के चांसेस भी हैं, वजन बढ़ जाएगा?
ऑपरेशन के जैसे मैंने बताया था, वजन ना बढ़ने के दो कारण होते हैं, एक तो दिल की प्रॉब्लम के कारण और दूसरा अगर उनकी खुराक सही नहीं हो रही। अगर खुराक सही नहीं हो रही हो और ऑपरेशन के बाद भी वही पैटर्न लगाते रहें तो फिर वजन नहीं बढ़ेगा। इम्पोर्टेंट चीज ये है कि ये कई पेरेंट्स जो हैं ये समझ नहीं पाते हैं, सही खुराक नहीं देते हैं बच्चे को, बच्चे का वजन नहीं बढ़ रहा है और फिर कहते हैं कि हमने ऑपरेशन तो करा लिया, बच्चे का वजन। तो ये दोनों चीजें जानना बहुत जरूरी है। ऑपरेशन से जो है हार्ट की जो प्रॉब्लम है वो ठीक हो जाती है। हार्ट से संबंधित जो अगर वेट गेन में क्षमता रहती है वो उसमें जो है जरूर उसमें इम्प्रूवमेंट रहेगी, पर ये बहुत जरूरी है कि न्यूट्रिशन पे भी ख्याल देना है, तभी वेट बढ़ेगा। कई माँ हैं जो थक जाती हैं, वो कहती हैं बच्चा नहीं रो रहा है, बच्चा ज्यादा रो रहा है, 2-4 दे के फिर छोड़ देते हैं। तो वो एफर्ट नहीं लेते हैं बच्चे को खुराक पहुंचाने की और फिर कहते हैं बच्चे का वेट नहीं बढ़ रहा है। तो ये एक बहुत आम प्रॉब्लम है, स्पेशली जो है हमारे देश में ये बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है कि सही नहीं।
I think it is important also to know कि जो पेरेंट्स अभी इंतजार कर रहे हैं जिनके बच्चों की सर्जरी होने वाली है, So is it okay or desirable or not desirable to allow the new babies to breastfeed, to exert to breastfeed? Actually, since our children who have trisomy 21 also have hypotonia and they have difficulty in suckling, and but also at the same time, it is the first oral motor exercise that the baby gets. So, but from the cardiac point of view, if the child has cardiac defect, what should be the recommendation that whether the child should be allowed to breastfeed or should be fed with a chammach and a katuri, or how should it be until the surgery, the defect gets corrected?
Well, we have to see whether the child is really getting tired with breastfeeding or not. Important thing is that adequate feed should go in. If the baby is getting tired and just lets go of the breast within a few minutes and is not able to suck, then of course we have to go on to katori chammach. The breast milk has to be taken because the least energy consuming is katori chammach, the easiest for. Very often, even that is not possible, and we have to actually put a tube down the child's nose and stomach, which is called a vulvogastric tube, and feed the baby to the tube, which is again often has to be done with babies who just are unable to feed and suck, and we are trying to get them ready for surgery because if they have not just low weight, but if they also have other nutritional deficiencies, if they have associated deficiency of iron and other elements. So sometimes we keep them on 2 or 3 weeks of tube feeds while preparing them for surgeries. So breast milk is not contraindicated. We always recommend breastfeeding, but as long as the baby is able to feed. If the baby is not able to feed through the breast milk and weight gain or weight is not gaining because of that, then we would recommend that the mother takes out the breast milk and gives it through the katori chammach.
And I think, sir, the same message goes for physiotherapy also, because nowadays we are fortunately able to identify children with Down syndrome earlier, and the parents and the families are able to present or connect with other families and the medical fraternity even earlier than before. So, and they are advised for physiotherapy to be able to attain the milestones in time. So if the child also has a cardiac defect and is advised physiotherapy for attaining milestones, I think the same message goes for that also, कि हम देख लें कि बच्चा कितना ले पा रहा है या फिर अभी रुक जाएं जब तक सर्जरी नहीं हो जाती.
आमतौर से जनरली फिजियोथेरेपी का बुरा असर नहीं पड़ता है हार्ट पे, पर अगर ऐसी सिचुएशन हो तो बच्चे को खैर एनीवे बहुत जल्दी सर्जरी की जरूरत होगी, तो फिर उसको उस प्रकार से एडवाइस मिलेगा कि पहले सर्जरी करा लें और उसके बाद फिर फिजियोथेरेपी कंटिन्यू रखें.
Yes. और ये आपने बताया अपनी टॉक में भी, मैं सिर्फ एक बार हिंदी में दोहराना चाहती हूँ क्योंकि मुझे लग रहा था ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट सवाल है कि यदि बच्चे को कार्डियक डिफेक्ट है और किसी भी कारण से, सोशियो इकोनॉमिक्स कारण से या इंफॉर्मेशन की कमी के कारण से अगर बच्चे का ऑपरेशन नहीं हो पाता, तो क्या ये संभव है कि हम इस स्थिति में पहुंच जाएं कि बच्चे का ऑपरेशन हम कर ही ना पाए और इरिवर्सिबल हो जाए नुकसान?
तो वो स्थिति हम नहीं चाहते कि कोई भी बच्चा वो स्थिति पे पहुंचे कि किसी भी कारण, जानकारी ना होने के कारण, गलत सलाह मिलने के कारण या जो परिस्थितियां हैं उसके कारण ये स्थिति बन जाए कि वो ऑपरेशन के लायक ना रहे. ऑलरेडी सेकेंडरी चेंजेस आए, क्योंकि ये जानना जरूरी है कि अगर ये बच्चे को जो है ऐसे ही छोड़ दिया जाए तो आगे की जिंदगी बहुत मुश्किल रहेगी, प्रॉब्लम बढ़ती जाएंगी. ये बच्चे बहुत नीलापन पड़ जाते हैं, फिर इस स्थिति में आ जाते हैं कि चल नहीं पाते हैं, सांस फूलने लगता है, फिर बिस्तर पर लेट जाते हैं और जो है उनका जो अंत होता है वो शांतिपूर्वक नहीं होता. तो ये जरूरी है कि हम किसी भी बच्चे को उस स्टेज पे ना पहुंचाएं और जो भी हो, अगर उनको किसी किस्म की सहायता है तो जरूर संपर्क में रहें. कोई ना कोई रास्ता निकल जाता है. ऐसे पेशेंट्स को हेल्प करने के लिए कई संस्थाएं हैं जो कि आर्थिक सहायता देती हैं और कई हॉस्पिटल्स भी हैं जो कि सपोर्ट करते हैं, थोड़ा बहुत हेल्प, तो इधर उधर से मिला जुला के हम कई पेशेंट्स को हेल्प कर पाते हैं जिनको ऑपरेशंस की जरूरत है।
सर आप कोई हॉस्पिटल सजेस्ट कर सकते हैं दिल्ली गुड़गांव में सर्जरी के लिए?
देखिए, इस फोरम में तो उचित नहीं होगा कि मैं हॉस्पिटल का बताऊं। वैसे हॉस्पिटल्स, कई सारे हॉस्पिटल्स हैं दिल्ली गुड़गांव एरिया में जो कि हार्ट सर्जरी करती हैं। वो मैं बता देता हूँ कहाँ कहाँ पर होती है सर्जरी। गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल्स में ऑल इंडिया इंस्टीट्यूट है, जीबी पंत हॉस्पिटल है।
एक्चुअली मैंने जीबी पंत और गॉइस में दोनों में पता किया है, बट वहाँ का प्रोसेस बहुत लॉन्ग प्रोसेस है और हाइजीन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू भी बहुत ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम हुई, और डॉक्टर कभी कुछ कंफ्यूज कर देते हैं, कभी कुछ कंफ्यूज कर देते हैं। तो इज इट एनी प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल जहाँ पर थोड़ा इकोनॉमिकली भी हो और बेस्ट भी हो?
जो प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल्स जहाँ पर होता है, जैसे कि हमारा हॉस्पिटल है, अपोलो हॉस्पिटल है, मैक्स हॉस्पिटल है, और गुड़गांव की तरफ देखेंगे तो मेदांता है, एफएमआरआई है। तो ये सारे हॉस्पिटल्स हैं जहाँ पर बच्चों की हार्ट सर्जरी होती है। आप उनसे कांटेक्ट संपर्क कर सकते हैं और फिर वो बता पाएंगे आपको कि क्या सर्जरी होनी है, उसमें क्या एक्सपेंसेस रहेंगे और किस तरह से सहायता मिल सकती है। हर एक हॉस्पिटल में अलग अलग स्कीम्स रहती हैं सहायता के लिए।
ओके सर, थैंक यू सर।
एक और इम्पॉर्टेंट सवाल मुझे लगता था कि हमारे बच्चों को बचपन में बहुत ज़्यादा डेंटल प्रॉब्लम्स और ईएनटी प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं। तो जिन बच्चों को हार्ट डिफेक्ट्स रहे हैं और जिनका ऑपरेशन हो गया है, चिल्ड्रन हु हैव हैड कार्डियक डिफेक्ट्स or maybe they have undergone intervention cardiac wise or a surgery cardiac wise. So is it important that they receive infective endocarditis prophylaxis before any minor procedure? Because major procedures generally they cover with antibiotics. तो क्या उन्हें कोई भी दांत का काम या कान का काम कराने से पहले अपने डॉक्टर को बता देना चाहिए कि बच्चे को हार्ट का ऑपरेशन हो चुका है और पहले एंटीबायोटिक की जरूरत है? ये जानकारी पेरेंट्स को होनी चाहिए क्या?
तो इसमें जो है रिकमेंडेशंस, काफ़ी गाइडलाइंस जो हैं इसकी बनी हुई हैं। यूजुअली सारे डेंटल सर्जन्स को भी मालूम है, बट इम्पॉर्टेंटली ये है कि एक बार हार्ट डिफेक्ट अगर करेक्ट हो गया है और उसमें कोई डिफेक्ट बचा नहीं है, जैसे कि एएसडी और बीएसडी अगर वो पूरी तरह से बंद है, कोई डिफेक्ट बचा नहीं है, तो उसमें कोई इन्फेक्टिव एंडोकार्डाइटिस प्रोफिलैक्सिस की जरूरत नहीं है। जरूरत तब होती है जब ऑलरेडी अगर प्रॉब्लम अनट्रीटेड हो, अगर बीएसडी है बच्चे में और एएसडी है। तो एएसडी के लिए तो वैसे भी जरूरत नहीं होती, बट वीएसडी के लिए, या अगर कोई वाल्व लीक कर रहा हो, वाल्व लीकेज की प्रॉब्लम हो, तो ऐसी स्थिति में जरूर डेंटल प्रोसीजर के पहले जरूर प्रोफिलैक्सिस की जरूरत है।
And for ASD devices also, sir, do they need an antibiotic?
के बाद भी जो है, जो पहले 3 महीने के बाद का पीरियड होता है, उसके बाद जरूरत नहीं है।
ठीक है सर। और इसी तरह कुछ बच्चों को हमारे पेसमेकर्स भी हैं, तो पेसमेकर यदि बच्चों का है तो उसकी केयर के लिए कुछ स्पेशल प्रिकॉशंस पेरेंट्स को लेने चाहिए।
पेसमेकर के लिए जो है, एक तो जो है उनको डायरेक्ट इंजरी से बचाना है कि पेसमेकर के एरिया जो जनरेटर है उस पर डायरेक्टली कोई चोट ना लगे, क्योंकि फिर वो पेसमेकर में अल्फंक्शन हो सकता है। और बाकी जो है, कई को चिंता रहती है कि वो जो एक्सरे स्क्रीनिंग मशीन्स वगैरह होती हैं उससे प्रॉब्लम, मोस्ट ऑफ दीज आर, इनमें पेसमेकर में असर नहीं पड़ता है जो ह्यूमन स्क्रीनिंग मशीन्स में जाएं। पर बेटर रहता है कि ऐसे कोई जो एरिया है तो उनको बता दें कि भाई पेसमेकर है, तो उसको अवॉइड कर सकें तो अवॉइड करें। पर मेन चीज़ होती है इंजरी की, और दूसरा जो है कि डिपेंड करता है कि पेसमेकर का जो लीड है वो किस तरह से डला है, हार्ट के सरफेस पे है जिसको एपिकार्डियल कहते हैं, या अगर वेन के थ्रू डला है तो फिर जो है उसको भी जो है रेगुलर फॉलोअप करके रखना है, क्योंकि जैसे जैसे बच्चा ग्रो करता है तो मुमकिन है कि वो लीड पे स्ट्रेच पड़े या स्ट्रेच, तो ग्रोथ के साथ जो है उसका ध्यान रखना पड़ता है कि वो लीड सही पोजीशन पे है कि नहीं।
Mr. Vijender wants to know, if the child does not have a heart problem till 3 years, what are the chances that they get it in future?
If once a heart problem is excluded at birth, that means if the heart on echo has been found to be normal, then it is virtually impossible for a heart defect to develop. They can get additional heart problems, or which is called as secondary heart problem. They can't get a congenital heart problem, but they can get acquired heart problems. You can get a condition called rheumatic heart disease, so which affects the valves of the heart, or you can get some muscle disorders which can affect. But you don't get a congenital defect. That is, not all congenital defects have to be present at birth. They don't show up later on.
So, sir, in the same train of thoughts, I would like to ask that should, if a child does not have a cardiac defect, congenital cardiac defect, does it help if we periodically keep on checking echocardiographic screening of children with trisomy 21, given the fact that the children also, our children most often have obstructive sleep apnea also, and there is a possibility that they have pulmonary hypertension. So is it a good idea for all the children to have a regular screening with echocardiogram, even if they do not have a congenital heart defect, or even if the congenital heart defect has been corrected?
Yeah, of course, once a congenital heart defect is present, even if it is corrected, then they are advised periodic follow-up. And that frequency of periodic follow-up depends upon the type of defect and how well it has been corrected. So take, for example, a VSD. We would first do a routine checkup 3 months after surgery, 6 months, and then 1 year later. And if after 1 year we are satisfied that the VSD has remained closed and the heart-lung pressures have come down to normal, then we would advise an annual checkup till the age of 5 years. And if things are going all right, everything all right, then we would say a checkup once in 5 years. So the frequency keeps increasing. Likewise, for atrioventricular septal defect, it's a more complex repair. And here we are more worried that there may be leakage of the valves, which may develop over course of time. Then the recommendation is for an annual checkup till the child becomes at least 10 years old. So most of the growth has occurred, and after that we can increase the frequency of checkup. So children with corrected heart defects definitely have to be on a regular follow-up for most of their life. But those who have a normal heart, not heart, then it will depend upon the clinical. So more importantly is a routine or a regular clinical checkup. If there is evidence of obstructive sleep apnea, even a clinical examination of the heart will pick up if there is signs of pulmonary hypertension developing, a loud pulmonary second sound of the heart. And then you can follow that up with an echocardiogram to confirm the presence of pulmonary hypertension or not. So these are all sequential, but they do, of course, need a regular medical checkup periodically.
Right, sir. So Mr. Ramya Prakash and Mr. Amit had similar questions. One, Mr. Ramya Prakash's child has had a hole which has been closed. So I think the follow-up will be similar. And Amit's child did not have any heart defect. The child is 5 years old, so follow-up will be similar. Gayatri Rajesh wants to know, sir, my daughter is 8 years old now, and she was diagnosed with VSD at birth, and still it is not closed. We have been advised to wait till she is 12 years old. Is that okay?
Well, it depends. If the hole is very small, then it's anybody's guess, because if it's very small, not causing any strain on the heart or the lungs, then the hole is not causing a problem, and the only slight risk is a risk of endocarditis. But otherwise, the hole may not require closure. So if it is a very small hole, then I don't see any problem in waiting till 12 years. But the question here will be whether that hole needs to be closed at all or not. And that will be the question which only that the pediatric cardiologist can answer, depending upon what exactly the echo is showing.
Mr. Jasdeep Singh wants to know, my son Prabhkun is 14 years old. He underwent open heart surgery at the age of 6 months. He's quite healthy now, and I don't think he has any problem. Please let me know whether there is any need of consulting cardiologist. It's a similar question which what will be answered.
Yes, as I mentioned, that periodic follow-up is essential, and the cardiologist will guide you depending upon whether there is any defect left over or not. You have to understand that, especially with atrioventricular septal defect, if that is the surgery that's been done, because that is a repair work on the heart, and one has to follow whether the heart is growing appropriately and the valves are functioning appropriately with growth. And often symptoms may not show up. You need to do an echo to check whether the heart structure is normal and the valves are functioning normally. So it's important now. I'm not sure, you said open heart surgery. I'm not sure what exactly the defect was and what surgery has been done. But my recommendation would still be that if the child has had open heart surgery, it is essentially do a periodic checkup.
Purva Jain wants to know, she has a baby who is 3.2 years now. He underwent PDA device closure when he was 17 months old. She wants to know whether this PDA device can cause any complications in future.
A PDA device is not known to cause complications in the future. Complications are generally immediate if they have to happen. That means the device may not stay in place or may cause a blockage of the aorta. But once that immediate phase is over and the device has stayed in place, then late complications are relatively unknown.
Mansi Mittal has a son who is now 8.5 years old, and he had a small hole at the time of birth, which healed itself, and echo repeated after 6 months showed that it was all right. Do the symptoms mentioned only tell if we need to get the test done? I think she wants to know whether she needs to have a follow-up.
Yes, as I said earlier, that once the cardiologist has confirmed that the hole is closed, and it has closed by natural means and not affected any of the valves, then it's unlikely that the hole will come back again. So one does not need a checkup from that point of view. But as I mentioned, that if there is a mention that there is a prolapse of the valve or the hole is getting closed by the valve, then it is essential that a follow-up echo is done at least after a few years.
Mr. Kamal Sharma wants to know, he has a child who was detected 2 VSDs at the time of birth. One is closed, but for the other one, they had to undergo an echo, but because of COVID, they were not able to take the test.
So again, as I mentioned, the COVID is not a contraindication to get the echo done. Please get your cardiologist or get in touch with them, and they should be able to organize an echo.
There are a few similar questions, so I'm not repeating audience for you. There are similar questions. I hope your queries are answered. Then we have Subia Sheikh, who wants to know, she's saying, my son has been detected with small ASD PFO with left to right shunt at 4 months of age. He's 10 months old now with normal weight. Please suggest me if there is a need for further surgery.
Well, if it's a small ASD or PFO, as I mentioned again, that it may not require anything to be done, but again, requires to be confirmed by a follow-up echo. So if the first echo was done at 4 months, then we should get the next echo done by the time the child is about a year old. It's unlikely that any intervention may be required, but you have to confirm it with the echo as to whether the hole is closed completely or not.
Mrs. Lalita Joshi wants to know, she has a son 30 years old, echo done in June 2019. He was asymptomatic and the LV, he had mild AR and some cardiac effusion. Do you have any advice for further follow-up?
And again, so one of his valves is leaking. A mild AR is not an indication for anything to be done, but we need to keep a watch whether that leakage is increasing or not. So my advice would be that
there's some pericardial effusion. The exact detail is not mentioned, but there was some pericardial effusion.
So basically, you need to keep a periodic check. I'm sure the cardiologist must have advised as to when to get the next checkup done to see whether that effusion is increasing or decreasing. So since this echo is more than a year old, I think it was done. My recommendation would be they should see the cardiologist and get a repeat echo done.
A lot of compliments coming your way, sir. This is one Pratna's parents were.
Is it Pratna Chadda from Mumbai?
I'm not sure. Pratna, are you here? You can unmute yourself. Okay.
Pratna was the photo I showed of the baby.
Yeah, she's actually mentioning something over it. Thanks. Would like to share her present photo with you. I think she's the same one.
Because I haven't been in touch with them. Hello.
All right, they're there. Yeah, they're here.
I can recognize the father. Hello. Can you hear me?
Oh, she's here.
Yes, Pratna. So nice to see you and be in touch with you after so many years. As you can see, I still show your photographs.
You look beautiful, Pratna.
Are you still in Mumbai? What are you doing now?
So next, sir, we have Shri. She's asking, my nephew is 8 years old now and has been diagnosed with VSD of 4 millimeters. After repeated echo, there was no change in diameter. What should I do to address it? He is not a child with DS.
He's not a sorry?
He does not have trisomy 21.
He does not have trisomy 21. But as I said, the treatment doesn't change whether you have trisomy or not. The treatment pattern again remains the same. It depends upon what the overall clinical situation is. A 4 millimeter hole is not a large hole. At the same time, it's possible that it may not close on its own. So it requires regular close follow-up. And if it doesn't close for the next few months, then one may have to consider closing it through surgery. It will all depend upon whether it is causing an effect on the heart and the lungs or not.
Okay. Prakriti says, my daughter, 18 years old, had pneumonia in February that time. Echo showed ostium secundum ASD, 6 millimeter, and she was advised transesophageal echocardiogram. She did not have any problem during 18 years. At the age of 2 years, echo showed ASD of 2. She was doing swimming as one competitions. I seek your advice for further management. I think she has an ASD.
How old is she now?
She's now 18 years.
So when was the last checkup done? Only in early childhood, right?
I think so. So yeah. That time probably she was advised a transesophageal. She's not mentioned. Prakriti, you want to unmute yourself and clarify? Are you here, Prakriti? Shall we move on to the next question? In the meantime, if Prakriti you are available, are you still here? Maybe you can, sure. Then there's one question from, I can't figure out the name. Is 15 minutes considered less time or baby feeds and could be associated with ASD, VSD defects?
Difficult to put a time on it. Some babies feed fast, some babies feed slow. The important thing to say is whether the baby gets tired, and if the baby is symptomatic or has a heart condition, he will usually get tired in a few minutes and then start crying for hunger. So the mother should be able to recognize whether the child has had a full feed, feels satisfied after the feed or not. It's not exact timing of whether it is 12 minutes or 15 minutes. But basically, whether the child has received enough feed for the child to feel satisfied. That's what we're looking at.
And Amna from Pakistan has two questions. One is, Do the medications that we give for cardiac defects have any side effect on the body of the child? And also, are there any specific dietary instructions for children who have cardiac defects?
Yeah, all medications have side effects. There's no medicine which does not have a side effect. So while the medicine does benefit on one hand, obviously it's going to produce some side effects, because that same effect that it is producing also will produce some changes in the body or some metabolic changes. For example, Lasix, which is the commonest medicine which is given for children with heart failure, it produces more urine. And when the children pass more urine, they also lose a lot of potassium. So there is a tendency for the blood potassium levels to come down. So usually there's another medicine given to counteract that. Like for example, aldactone is a medicine which we commonly give. Often a combination of the two, which is called lacilactone, is given. So one medicine is given to counteract the side effect of the other. So one has to understand that it is not ideal to keep treating congenital heart disease with medicines. So as I mentioned, the medicines does not correct the heart defect. All it does is to support the patient till the time you are waiting to get the heart defect corrected. So all medicines have the side effects. The doctors will always advise you as to what precautions to take or what to look out for in terms of the side effects. And often we need to give some other medicines to counteract the side effects. For example, if you're giving aspirin to the child, then aspirin can cause irritation in the stomach. And we usually advise that it should be given with meals, or if there's signs of acidity, one needs to give an antacid to cover that. So the second question is again the dietary. As I said again, that these children lose a lot of energy when breathing. The main reason that they don't gain weight is because of a lot of energy loss, because of fast breathing or exertion for breathing. So they actually require much more nutrition or more calories than a normal child. So they will not gain weight unless they are supplied those extra calories. So nutrition has to be accordingly adjusted, that they get more than the normal amount of calorie intake that a child requires.
Sumant wants to say, my daughter, 36 years old, she has sleep apnea, but not confirmed. We are suspecting. Can it affect the heart condition?
Yes, sleep apnea, as I mentioned, it's a condition where the pulmonary or the lung pressures go up. With sleep apnea, the body accumulates carbon dioxide, and then that secondarily results in the lung pressures going up. And they can also then go on to get coronary artery disease. So it's important for corrective measures to be taken. Usually CPAP at night is required for these patients, but it's important that you consult a specialist adult cardiologist who will guide you further on this.
We have Purvi who says, my son at the age of 2, who's now 5, had edema all over body, lungs, abdomen, pericardial effusion, which was corrected with Lasix. Reason was not found. He also has hypothyroidism, but now it is normal. But pulmonary hypertension was noted on echo. I just wish to know, is there any possibility that recurrence might have happened?
Well, it would be difficult for me to comment, because if you say that at that time a diagnosis was not reached and the problem has got sorted out with Lasix, if the Lasix requirement is no longer there and the problem has not occurred after that, then it is probably an acute episode which has got corrected or got sorted out. It's difficult to predict whether it will occur again or not. But since we don't know the cause there, it's difficult to comment on whether it will happen again or not.
There are a lot of compliments. Mr. Vivek Jain wants to, he's offering help, and he says that you gave second life to his son, and anybody who needs, any fellow parent who needs any guidance is available for counseling.
You can share my email ID on the group, and
I'm doing that. So yeah. The few reports also actually I've received on WhatsApp. I'm not able to place the parent. So what I'm doing is, sir, if you allow me to, I'll share your email ID on the chat here. And parents who want to share or who could not, who still have queries, can probably share the reports on the email ID. Dr. Iyer's email ID I'm sharing on the chat box.
Sorry to interrupt. Dr. Amita, I guess Prakriti is also there. She's raising a hand.
So I was trying to figure out if you could help me, Deepti, in that. I'm not able to locate parents who have raised hands. If you could
Okay,
identify and ask them to talk.
Yeah, so Prakriti, you're already unmute. Please, please speak up. Prakriti, can you hear me? She has raised hand, but is not able to.
Maybe other parents who have raised hands.
Yeah. So, Mr. Sunil Kumar Shah from Nepal, can you please unmute yourself?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, Sunilji.
Hello.
Sunilji, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. आप बताएं.
सर मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि मेरा बेटी अभी 4.5 साल की है और उसके 1 साल की उम्र में उसको पीजीए डिवाइस करवाया है। मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ फ्यूचर में इसका कुछ प्रॉब्लम आ सकता है?
फ्यूचर में सॉरी क्या?
मैं 1 साल के एज में सर मैं इसको पीजीए डिवाइस करवाया तो 4.5
उसके बाद इको हुआ है।
प्रॉब्लम आ सकता है?
उसके बाद इको हुआ है, सब सही बताया गया है।
हाँ सर, सब सही बताया है। अभी लास्ट 2 महीना पहले मैं कलकत्ता में चेकअप करवाया था तो आपको बताया
ये प्रॉब्लम दोबारा नहीं होगी।
अच्छा, ओके
पर इतना
ओके, थैंक यू सर।
हाँ जी।
And then we have Preeti who has raised hand. So Preeti, please unmute yourself. Preeti, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, मैं माधव गोयल की मदर बोल रही हूँ, who have ASD, VSD and PDA.
Yes.
Yes, sir. He is 3 kg and 3 months till now. We have recommended from PG.
कहाँ पर दिखाया है? कहाँ रहते हैं आप?
Preeti, unmute yourself, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
सर हम दिल्ली में रहते हैं। हमने पहले जयपुर गोल्डन में दिखाया था।
हाँ जी।
देन फिर हमने यहाँ पे एक पलवल में एक हॉस्पिटल है हार्ट का, उधर दिखाया था। फिर उन्होंने हमें एम्स रेफर किया था। बट देन वी हैव गो टू पीजीआई और उन्होंने हमें नवंबर की डेट दिया है फॉर द ऑपरेशन।
हाँ जी।
अभी ये 3 kg एंड 3 months का है, तो बट वी शुड वेट फॉर नवंबर और वी शुड
नहीं, आप नवंबर तक तो वेट करना उचित नहीं रहेगा। डिपेंड करेगा कि बच्चे का वेट कैसे बढ़ रहा है। रेसिपी जैसे मैंने बताया कि
एट द बर्थ ही वाज 1 kg 900।
पहले 3 महीने में तो जनरली वेट बढ़ जाता है कैसे तैसे, पर 3 महीने के बाद जो है प्रॉब्लम शुरू होने लगती है और अक्सर जो है फिर इनका वेट बढ़ना बंद हो जाता है। तो अगले कुछ हफ्तों के लिए जो है ध्यान रखिएगा, पर मेरी रिकमेंडेशन रहेगी कि कोशिश करिए उससे पहले ऑपरेशन करा लें।
ओके सर। सर जैसे हम इसका अदर मेडिसिन दे रहे हैं वेट गेन करने के लिए, तो शुड बी कंटिन्यू दिस?
वेट गेन के लिए कोई मेडिसिन नहीं होती है।
एक एमसीटी ऑयल लिखा था डॉक्टर ने हमें।
जैसे मैंने बताया कि कोई भी मेडिसिन वेट गेन नहीं कराती है। जो भी मेडिसिन जो होती हैं वो हार्ट को सपोर्ट करने के लिए होती हैं और शरीर में जो है पानी इकट्ठा करने से बचाने के लिए फ्लूइड।
ओके।
वेट गेन का एक ही मात्र तरीका होता है, अंदर खुराक पहुंचनी चाहिए। खुराक मात्रा में एडिक्वेट मात्रा में पहुंचे तभी जो है वेट गेन।
ओके, थैंक यू सो मच।
Then we have Priyanka, who is Jisha's mother. She has a daughter of 8 months. She is having 4 millimeter ASD. We have done echo 3 times. Doctor has asked us to wait for 2 years. Can you give suggestions?
So ASD 4 millimeter is not likely to cause any problems, and that is why your doctor has told not to do anything and get a recheck done at 2 years. In all probability, nothing may need to be done. But if the hole still remains and it is of a reasonable size, then it can always be closed by a device when the child is a little older. ASDs generally do not cause any major problem during the first 2-3 years of life. So your doctor is right in calling you again at 2 years.
I'm sharing sir's email ID. Those who want to send in reports may write it down just to confirm the spellings. It is irks@hotmail.com. I'll repeat in spellings. I for India, Y for Yavatmal, E for England, R for Raipur, K for Kashmir, S for Srinagar. irks@hotmail.com. Lot of parents thanking you, sir. A lot of anxieties allayed, I think.
For joining in.
Any suggestions, sir, on how to keep heart healthy of child with Down syndrome who is diagnosed normal at echo?
Well, for children, we don't necessarily do anything specific to keep the heart healthy. It's important that you lead a healthy lifestyle. So as the child grows, one has to be careful that obesity is avoided. Children with Down syndrome do tend to have more weight than other children. So it's important to get them to exercise a level. Avoid too much of what we call as a couch potato syndrome. You should not sit for long hours in front of the computer or computer games. Physical activity is important. And physical activity is the most important for keeping the heart healthy. The second, of course, is diet. So avoiding fast foods, too much of junk food, have a balanced, healthy diet. These two are very important elements for keeping a healthy heart.
Rashmi ma'am?
Yeah. Thank you, Amita. So we are so fortunate to get such valuable inputs from your vast experience and answering so many queries. I can see your love direct from your heart. We are really grateful to you for being associated with our cause. And I'm so happy Rekha Ramachandran is here with us. Rekha Ma, can you please?
Yes, I was just waiting for you to call me in. Dr. Iyer, I am from Chennai. I'm just waiting to talk to you in Tamil. Sir, you know what I liked about your room was the rosewood chair.
Okay, you can see.
And knowing the typical, yeah, I can see that that's the type of chair that we at our age would be sitting and relaxing in. Also, I just read that you were also you took the initiative of starting the Down syndrome, Asia Pacific Down syndrome program for cardiac issues. The founder member?
No, I don't think so. That probably
it comes up on your thing saying that you were at the Asia Pacific, you were the founder for the cardiac issues.
Asia Pacific Cardiac Society, not the Down syndrome.
Okay, cardiac, okay, whatever it is, now we have formed the Asia Pacific Federation and my husband is the president of the Down Syndrome Organization. We would like you to join us, sir, and be a part of the entire program, because after having heard you, I don't think we can let you go that easily. And I think the number of queries are just going to keep on, increasing. And I've also read that you've done 10,000 cases, sir. We're going to give you many more cases. So please join us, and thank you so much for being there with us today. You've actually enlightened a lot of parents and given us a lot of hope. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for having me part of this session.
It's our honor, sir. It's an honor, sir. It's an honor. Thank you so much.
Dipti, please, I request you to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Iyer. And I'm seriously at loss of words to express my gratitude towards you for taking time out for this.
Dipti?
Dipti?
I think Dipti had some issues.
Yeah, I think you have lost her. Amita, I think you can give us a big round.
Everything better. And we are greatly encouraged.
Yeah, she's here. She's here.
Can you hear me,
Can you
please?
just repeat?
Yeah, we can now. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry if I was not audible. I was just saying that I'm at loss of words to express my gratitude towards you, sir. Thank you so much for taking time out for this session. Thank you so much, sir, for the difference you have been making in our lives and in the lives of our children. Your kindness, your sincere caring and concern make everything better. And we are greatly encouraged with this session. We are highly honored and obliged with your presence here, sir. There are plenty of takeaways from this for our parents. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And I would also like to thank Dr. Amita for moderating this session so exceptionally well. Your in-depth knowledge and experience of the subject has always come handy to us, ma'am. We have always looked up to you as our in-house doctor. And thank you
I'm part
so
of
much for your
family
selfless
only.
efforts. Dr. Amita, thank you so much. And not to forget Dr. Surekha Ramachandran and DSFI, who have always been the pillar of support for DSPS and have helped us in arranging such sessions. Thank you, Rekhama, for making it today. We know it would have been difficult for you with the given situations. So thank you so much. And dear parents, we would request you to stay tuned to WhatsApp, Telegram, and Facebook groups to get updates on more such sessions that we are planning. And we would now request everybody to unmute and give a big round of applause to Dr. Iyer and Dr. Amita. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Okay, sir.
Sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
So
much.
we'll be
Thank you so much.
and we will be signing off now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.